Welcome back. So we are now ready for our third presentation of the day, featuring Professor David Hughes, Emeritus Professor of Food Marketing from the Imperial College of London. So let's go ahead with this presentation where David will be speaking about quality and consumer preferences. Welcome, David.
Hola. I'm David Hughes, and I'm delighted to be talking at the IBO Virtual Summit, although I'm the last. Just a quick talk on consumer trends and preferences and looking for opportunities and challenges for the global blueberry industry. So let's start off by being global. Why not? And there's 7.8 billion people in our world. But actually, they're not all in one place, but 6 out of 10 of our world live in Asia. Over the next 30 years, we're going to add another 2 billion people as we move towards 10 billion overall. That means there'll be 10 billion prospective customers. Where will they be largely? Well, actually, 8 out of 10 of the world population in 2050 will be in Asia or in Africa. And actually, the real growth in population will be in Africa, which will double over the next 20, 30 years. Will this be a prospective market in the future? Well, it depends on economic growth, I would suggest, in Africa. Although, of course, Africa has its own blueberry center, which is in South Africa. So let's move on. I'm talking to you from the UK. And so, first of all, just a few things about blueberries in my market. And I say the blueberry market in the UK has moved from zero to hero in 20 years. Overall, the UK fruit market has grown well over the last 20 years, but we're still very small spenders per household. You know, for a high-income country, we only spend $1 per day on fruit per household, which isn't a lot. The outright winners amongst fresh fruit in the UK are fresh berries, of which you're part. And they've more than quadrupled in sales by 4 since 2005. And fresh berries have close to 30% of the nation's fruit bowl by value, leading apples and citrus way behind. And great news, within fresh berries, blueberries are the standout performers, increasing their sales by 10 over this same period. And retail sales of blueberries were close to $700 million in 2020, 2021. Way back in 2005, blueberries were only 10% of the retail berry category. But now, in 2021, they're close to 30%. Of course, the largest players are still strawberries, but blueberries have been roaring along. Blueberries in the UK market in the future, only one direction, and that is up. It's looking fabulous. But there are darker clouds. Blueberry retail prices remain stubbornly flat over the past 10 years. But production costs, as you guys know, escalate. And that suggests to me that there's an endemic problem shared with blueberry and other berry markets around the world, and I'll come back to that. But first of all, some sort of food industry trends which I think are of moment to us. Look, this of COVID, it ain't over. And as the American baseball player and moral philosopher of last century, Yogi Berra, says, it ain't over till it's over. And it's growing fast in many countries. And that has huge implications for all people in the food industry. Why? Because some people, some households have done well through COVID in terms of saving money. They've worked from home, they've been paid well, they haven't had expenditures related to travel. But the majority of households around the world have struggled. And what's more, they're going to struggle more as we try and claw our way out of this pandemic, because global food commodity prices have been increasing. Over the last 12 months, they've gone up 34% year on year. And what's more, they're continuing to climb. That means we'll have people whose incomes are constrained will be facing higher food prices. And what will they do? They'll look to see how they can cut back and find cheaper places to buy food. And I think that means that we're going to see a great period for hard retail discounters. These are discounters like in Europe and also in North America. Aldi and Lidl. In Eastern Europe, it's Mia, who's now going right across Europe. Again, in the US, it's Dollar General. These smaller stores with few SKUs that focus on price. And I see that in my own market here. Tesco is our number one retailer. And what it's trying to do is to match Aldi. And so, for example, on key products like blueberries, it will have one of its products price matched. So here we've got Tesco Rosedene Farms, which proudly says we are Aldi price match, which means in my market you can pay about $9 a kilo. Well, you don't actually buy a kilo of blueberries, but that's the Aldi price match, whereas their regular price would be almost double that. So you've got these hard discounters pressing prices down, and clearly that has implications for us in many markets if we're selling our blueberries. What we've seen, and in so many markets through COVID-19, has been this sort of acceleration of online grocery retailing. Should we be surprised? No. COVID-19 did just push it. So, for example, in the UK, my market again, that we doubled the proportion of groceries that we bought online. Is that a surprise? Well, look, 100 years ago in the UK, how did we deliver groceries? Well, a young man on a bicycle delivered it. Well, what's happening in 2020? Well, actually, slightly older men on bicycles. So it's just the turn of the cycle. And I'd expect to see at a slower rate of growth, but online grocery will continue to increase. So what? Well, I think it's much easier to shop by price online than in store, which encourages value shopping. And again, we'll see that pressure on price. So does that mean bye-bye? That's the end of bricks and mortar in retail, so no more shops? Not at all. Let's go to China. Alibaba, which we know is a great online performer, is investing in stores, in bricks and mortar stores, buying Sunart. And what's more, expanding to other formats. It's just opening, what is it? It's called, it's Grocery X stores, which are very much like Costco in the US. So the grocery store isn't dead, but it needs to be linked digitally and have a big dollop of theatre. And theatre, I don't go to Europe for theatre or North America. Often as not, this retail there is a little boring, to be frank. But go to Asia, and some of the retail theatre is brilliant. Fresh Ippo, or Hema, as it's sometimes called in China. It's really, you can go there and have a wonderful afternoon just shopping for food. Same in Thailand in its new central food hall. But irrespective, what we're seeing in retail is this sort of technological revolution, not least driven by Amazon. Amazon Go, for example, where you just walk into the store, tap your phone, and it links to the app, take off the shelves what you want and exit, and everything is accounted for. You don't see anybody, you don't have to talk to a cashier, it's all done for you. But it's a reminder, just because we're in Peru, so to speak. I was in Peru in 2019 and visiting San Pedro Market in Cusco. And it just showed me how great merchandising and theatre always promote sales, irrespective at the level of technology. Here's a lady in the local market, and did she make a good effort with her fresh produce? Absolutely. Beautiful display of fruit, which she turned into smoothies. But one thing I've noticed through COVID-19 is an acceleration in the routes to market for customers looking to buy food. So initially, remember, it was independent stores, then we moved to supermarkets, and then it's online. And now in the UK, for example, again, because I'm based here, we've seen this astonishing multiplication of online platforms for very rapid grocery delivery. 15 minutes, you can sort of get on the app, put in an order, and 15 minutes later, it is delivered. Who are the companies? Gorillas, where they're from Germany, Getir from Turkey, then the British ones, Jiffy, Wheezy, Deja, Zap, And GoPuff from the US has just entered the UK rapid delivery market with a fancy acquisition. Why is this important to you? Because these products, so the rapid delivery of groceries, 15 minutes, they're sourced from dark stores. So these are like sort of mini warehouses, which only have 2,000 products. And they sort of source from there and then deliver direct to you. What's my point? For blueberries, make sure that you're linked in to these the rapid delivery markets, because that's another way to make sure that blueberries are one of those 2,000 products that are sold. Same thing in the US, where it's also moving forward at huge pace. The largest player, I've mentioned it already, GoPuff, has just raised another $1 billion to expand its network across the US. Do you remember when $1 billion was a lot of money? I mean, now it just seems to be another figure. Amazing. So that's a new route to market. And then through COVID-19 too, we've seen this acceleration in many markets of online restaurant meal delivery platforms. In the US, for example, DoorDash has over 50% of the market, and Uber Eats and Postmates, which are now co-owned, has 30%. And again, is this just a COVID thing? No, they're here to stay. And again, we're looking at what opportunities are there here in this route to market for blueberries, because in history, it's one that we wouldn't access. Keep your eye on it. Okay. And then, of course, meal kits. HelloFresh is the major player globally. It's a German-based company. It's in about 14 different countries. It's got a market capitalization now of 17 billion US dollars. It's amazing. And so increasingly, particularly urban-based people are electing to say, we won't go shopping to the supermarket. We will purchase our meals in meal kit form through a HelloFresh. Again, is that a route to market for blueberries? It must be, because it's increasing importance. And will it disappear with COVID-19? No. And Nestle doesn't think so. Nestle is far and away the biggest food company in the world, and it's just spent $1 billion plus buying 3 meal kit and meal service companies in the US and the UK. Mindful Chef, Simply Cook, and Freshly are the 3 here. They believe this has a long-term future. Are there blueberries in these meal kits? There needs to be. Or go to China, for example. A company like Pinduoduo is right behind pushing the whole concept of group buying. What's group buying? It's when an apartment block will get together and say, why would we buy together? Because there will be cost savings and efficiencies. And so, for example, they might say, okay, maybe once a month we could group buy blueberries, but you've got to be linked to that electronic platform. Take a look at that as another route to market. I mean, through the pandemic, food to go has been absolutely hammered, but it will survive and prosper and become a substantial customer for healthy, nutritious food suppliers. And again, my question is, how can blueberries exploit this route to the consumer? Okay, not quite finished with COVID, but what has happened through the pandemic is it's become increasingly obvious that consumer health is hugely important in relation to how one might be hit if we're touched by COVID-19. So the health risks associated with viruses increase substantially if you are obese, for example, or if you have diabetes. And governments are increasingly saying, what we need to do is to be more influential, more proactive in trying to guide our citizens in improving their diets. It doesn't matter where one is, it's right round the world here. And as I said, governments are becoming more proactive. In history, what they've done is try to nudge us into better food buying and food consuming habits. Actually, of course, anything to do with health is sort of brilliant from a blueberry perspective, because to some extent, blueberries define good health. But you can see here how governments are saying, we can't just try and nudge people. We're now going to move in. We'll tax them. In the UK, they're thinking of taxing sugar and salt-heavy products. In Latin America, for example, in Chile and Mexico, on the salty, fatty snacks that say, on the front of these packs, we're going to have warning measures that look increasingly like the ones we put on cigarettes. And within Europe, one can see coming at a fast pace is that the market, and also backed up by government, are saying we should move towards having Nutri-scores on every food product. So this is some measure of the relative healthiness of food products. Within Europe, Nutri-scores have already been adopted for trial by Carrefour, the hugely influential retailer, and in Belgium by Colruyt Group. And so are you a green A or a deep red E? How would you score in blueberries? This would be brilliant for blueberries because I'm sure you'd be scoring A. But at the moment, we don't put anything on the pack. I would embrace Nutri-scoring because it would just underline the healthiness of your product. However, the fact of the matter is that health is a big driver for consumers, but it's not the overwhelming driver. And I've got here an example of Kraft mac and cheese, as the Americans say, macaroni and cheese. It's the microwavable version of mac and cheese. It's hugely popular, even more so during COVID. And it underlines the facts for me that comfort food and convenience trumps health. Look at the ingredient list on the right-hand side. I mean, it's huge. It's completely against trend. I say the ingredient list, I've read shorter books, for goodness sake. So it's great to be a healthy product, but that's not good enough. It's got to be convenient. Are blueberries convenient? Well, they are to eat, but make sure they're convenient to buy. Are they available where people want to buy them? And health is being picked up by all the fast-moving consumer goods producers of processed food products. And what's more, increasingly, they're looking for healthy ingredients, and often as not, that will be blueberries. At one level, that's good for blueberries because, of course, it's good for the processed sector of your industry. But on the other, these are direct competitors for the fresh product. General Mills, for example, with its Good Measure, which is a product which has little impact on blood sugar. It's for diabetics. What's it got in? It's got blueberries and almonds. Kind, which is owned by Mars, blueberries and almonds. Naked, blueberry muffin, etc. And what I've noticed, particularly through COVID-19, if there is one particular focus on health by consumers, it's about the degree to which products they can eat will support their immune systems. Are you in tune with immune? The fact of the matter is that most fresh fruits are, although we never tell anybody. But everybody else does. Look, here we've got Danone's Actimel. It's immune system strong. Tetley's fruit teas. It's immune vitamin C tea. Here's a breakfast boost with immune mill seed. Or John West, this is canned tuna, for goodness sake, immunity strong. For some, and moving on, Lactalis Group, Stonyfield Organic, daily probiotics help support the immune system. Chobani, very successful in the US, doubles down on probiotics as consumers seek immunity boosting products. And yet for some reason, and in history, in the fresh produce industry, we've been reluctant to cry out about the health attributes of our products. Not everybody. Because let's go to New Zealand and take the kiwi fruit and its principal marketer, Zespri. It promotes relentlessly across Asia with a huge immunity focus. Chota fruit immunity boost. Score 100% of your daily vitamin C. They're not shy at talking about their health attributes. And what's more, they're not shy about knocking the competition if they think they've got a story to tell. I'm refreshingly sweet and have 3 times more vitamin C than oranges. I taste great and have twice the fiber of pineapple. We've seen through COVID that we're just starting in fresh produce to talk about our health benefits. I've seen it particularly in mushrooms, gaining momentum as a versatile ingredient and an immunity booster with its vitamin D content. I think the avocado industry has done reasonably well in terms of linking avocados to its intrinsic health. And, blueberries, fair play. Let's go to the US, where blueberries have gained the American Health Association Heart Healthy certification. Great. That's good stuff. An avocado a day keeps heart disease at bay. That's good. Avocados from Peru have the American Heart Association standard. But let's remember, on heart claims, perceived health benefits differ by consumer segment. I mean, heart health is really important if you're 40 years and older. Why for not the younger people? Because they think they're going to live forever. It's a great thing to talk about the health benefits of blueberries because it boosts cognitive function. It makes you brainier. And that's a great sell to mums who want their kids to be brilliant, or indeed for people who are over 60 who are considered about Alzheimer's and dementia. Blueberries have a great impact on dopamine release. And so they can be presented for their benefits in terms of making you happier. What about skin condition and the antioxidants in blueberries? So it can be positioned as a beauty food. And who wants that? Well, probably anybody under 40, but particularly women. And then, as I said, immune system support in a COVID-concerned world, any adult is interested in that. I would put support the immune system on every pack that's sold globally. Some great examples in the UK, too, about how the market is trying to get people to be more healthy in their food eating behavior. Smash is an electronic platform which is aimed at those under 24-year-olds. You can only use it if you're under 24 and under, I should say, and it gives you discounts on very healthy products. It strikes me in the UK, it'd be interesting to see if we could position blueberries on this app. And so the younger consumer could buy at a discount. It would be a good way of starting to develop the blueberry habit. Getting away from COVID now, I mean, for my mind, what's sort of intriguing is this, which was accelerated actually by COVID-19, was this increasing awareness and concern around the globe about environmental aspects of food production and food consumption. And we're seeing this emergence of climate-friendly and planet-friendly diets. Who is it driven by? Not least by young people. Initially, right at the top was the Swedish young woman Greta Thunberg, who was terrific on the podium. But more recently, we've seen a Latin American entrant. I mean, it's the Shia Bastida, who is Chilean-Mexican, if I recall, and she made a very powerful speech at Biden's White House climate summit only a couple of months ago. And what's more, they're saying the power is on your plate, that you can have an impact on the environment and on mitigating climate change by changing what you eat. That's good stuff for us. Why? Because if you measure the products that you're producing, fresh fruits, for example, then they're on the side of the angels. As you can see here, they're perceived to be have a low environmental impact and a very high and a relatively high health impact. Brilliant. That's just brilliant. We need to make more of that. And who's interested in the environment and is concerned about it? Well, actually, everybody is, although it depends on which region you're in. European consumers are the most concerned. So 2020, about a quarter of Europeans say that they are eco-actives, that they will change their purchasing behavior for food and other things, depending on how beneficial they think the impact of the consumption is on the environment. Eco-dismissers are those who haven't come to terms yet with the fact that we're facing climate change. What's worrisome is in the USA, which is so influential overall, that close to 50% of consumers are eco-dismissers. It's high, 2 in Latin America, although it's coming down quickly. So it's those eco-considerers who are looking at how is this food produced and how is it packaged. And what I think is coming up next, I know is coming up, certainly in Europe. I mentioned that we had Nutri-scores. We're moving towards eco-scores. And that is a measure on the front of pack, which will tell the consumer in an easy to read and follow way what the environmental impact of the product that he or she is about to purchase. So eco-scores, like Nutri-scores, but about the impact of the environment. And it's already happening. Again, Lidl is trialing it in Europe. And what's more, Colruyt, again, is doing the same in Belgium. And there are already products out there which have the carbon impact, for example, on front of pack. I wonder what the Enviro score would be for blueberries. And of course, the answer is it depends where they're produced and where they're sent to market. I was intrigued the other day that in the Sunday Times in the UK, they were looking at the whole notion of eco-impact. And there they are you eco-impact A and green or eco-impact G and red? And it said, do blueberries pass the green test? New food labels reveal all. And in their test, then blueberries came in as rating C. Blueberries require 6 times as much carbon as potatoes, so they say. I think we've got to look at that and see how we position ourselves in blueberries on our environmental impact. And it's intriguing because if I look again around the world, that increasingly bigger food companies and retailers are starting to say, we don't only sell products which are healthy for people, but we want the products that we sell to be healthy for the climate, healthy for the planet. Here's Sainsbury's, our number 2 retailer in the UK, saying, make that burger a beet burger. And so what's all that about? They're saying, let's eat the world better, one beetroot burger at a time. They're saying red beets are good for blood pressure, but they're also good for the soil. They're a good break crop. So they're educating consumers to think past the product you see on the shelf to how it was grown and make sure you ask, when it was grown, was it good for the soil? Something for us to look at, I would suggest. And you can see it happening anyway. Every single big food company, that's the Danones, the Unilevers, the McCains, the Nestle's, the PepsiCo of this world, are making a big play saying that their ingredient producers, that means farmers, are following regenerative agriculture practices. That becomes one of the benefits to consumers of buying their products. They buy our products because they're good and healthy for you, and they're also good and healthy for the soil. Think of that from a blueberry perspective. And of course, it's more than just growing it, it's how we're packaging it. And so now we've got home compostable film, recyclable PET, paper, moving towards card rather than plastic. Really, really important in markets where consumers are particularly interested in this whole notion of recyclability and compostability and anti-plastic. Okay, and that's just more reflective that there are increasingly social pressures dictating choice when it comes to food. And I sort of characterize it as, remind me again what we can't eat. Now, it's particularly aggressive, this, with regard to meat and dairy products, but it also is of relevance to fresh produce, which of course includes blueberries. So if we take something non-blueberry, anything with palm oil as an ingredient is now questioned because of the impact of palm oil on destroying tropical forests. Chicken that's been fed soy from Brazil, again, because the soy might have come from an area that was previously a tropical forest. But let's look at the ones which have got a little star against. People are saying, was this food produced with slave labor? Was it produced by poorly paid farmers? Did the crops have herbicide that killed bees? Is it a water-intensive crop? Is it in a non-recyclable pack? And I think post-COVID, we have to take a very strong look at what are the major social issues which could disturb growth in the blueberry industry, because they'll be important to high-paying consumers looking for premium blueberry products. Where does this happen? Well, I was working in Australia just pre-COVID, and I was here. Australian berry and citrus farms most at risk of having slave-like working conditions. The Woolworths, the number one retailer in Australia's modern slavery report finds it's happening. It is out there. Other trends. We know that particularly for younger consumers, they're moving away from 3 meals a day, more towards a series of mini meals, or indeed snacks. And snacks don't have to be unhealthy. They can be healthy snacks. And so we want to make sure that we're positioning our products, and they can be well positioned, as the quintessential snacking product. But there are great processed products out there which are essentially competition, and we have to up our marketing game. Here's Ball from the UK, which was previously owned by Innocent, the juice people, which was owned by Coca-Cola. I mean, look at these products. They're just so easy to buy. It's a great way to have a power lunch or a power brekkie. And essentially, they're stealing our clothes, I would suggest. I mean, the best example for me of snacking blueberries, I'm not sure how successful it was back in 2019 with the Chilean blueberries, which were presented in Chinese cinemas as blue pop. I thought it was a brilliant idea. Let's push away the popcorn and just snack while we watch the film on blueberries. Brilliant idea. Because it's so easy to snack on blueberries. They're not like pineapples. Here I am. Took this picture when I was in Cambodia, a couple of years ago, where the lady said, "Do you want to buy a pineapple?" I said, "It's too much fiddle." She said, "Well, I'll put it into little chunks for you." And in 10 seconds, she'd taken this sort of nasty, prickly thing and put it into a bag for me to just snack on. We don't have to do that, because blueberries are built for snacking. And don't underestimate this. Recently, I was doing some talking for PepsiCo, and they have something, they introduced a new product called Game Fuel. And I thought, PepsiCo focusing on gamers? I said, isn't that a bit of a niche market? They said, there's 3 billion gamers worldwide, and this is a product specifically for them. I thought, start an undercover social media story that's snacking on blueberries when gaming gives you a competitive edge. Why wouldn't you? Okay, edging towards the end here. I've got about 5 minutes to go. Fruit and berries. Let's go back to the UK market and back to my concern about this flat prices for blueberries. I mean, berries have been so successful in the UK that they've been rewarded with more and more prime shelf space at retail. Hurrah! That's brilliant. And as I explained to you, if I look at the value share of the UK retail fruit bowl, all fresh fruit sold through supermarkets and stores, over a 14-year period here. Let's go back to 2007. Then fresh berries had an 18% share of the fresh fruit value market, and that had increased to close to 27% by 2021. Brilliant. And what's more, this reflected huge, just exceptional growth in retail sales of blueberries. And I've given you a comparison too with raspberries, which also have grown and grown well. But you can see in my market here over an 18-year period, there's been consistent and great growth in blueberries. It's sort of slowing off a little over the last couple of years, but there's still year-on-year growth. It started in 2003 as nothing in my market. It was almost zero. And as I said at the start, now it's a hero. And it's zoomed, to use a word we use a lot now. It's zoomed past raspberries. And what's more, if you look at the detail here, this is market penetration of blueberries. What does that mean? What proportion of the total households in the UK, there are about 26 million households in the UK. And what this tells me is that back in 2003, 5%, that's all, of households ever bought blueberries. And now it's over 50% do so. Brilliant. And what about, so that's penetration. What about frequency of purchase? What this tells you is of those that buy blueberries, how often in a year do they buy? And again, back to 2003, remember, less than 5% of households bought blueberries. And if they did, they only bought them 3 times a year. Now, in 2021, over 50% of households are buying. And what's more, they buy about 13 times a year. But still, that tells me that's only once a month, for goodness sake. So it's not a routine purchase. Is there upside? Huge upside. But here we go. Let's look at average retail prices for fresh blueberries in my market over the last 10 years. And it's as flat as a blueberry pancake, for goodness sake. Look at that. I mean, if you're a grower, you think, you know what's happened to your prices. Very little in my market. But you know that your field labor costs have increased in the UK by 40%. So margins have been squeezed. There's been a requirement for those in the blueberry business to get more productive, to grow, to get to much greater scale, to have more efficiencies. But it's worrisome. Why do I think it's worrisome? Because it suggests to me that we're becoming commoditized. And part and parcel of that is this. So back to Tesco. Here we are with its Rosedene Farms, remember, retail price under $10 for a kilo, versus Tesco Finest, which is its sort of premium blueberries, if you will, at more than double the price. But from a consumer point of view, when they look at, let's look at the energy, fat, saturates, sugars, so they're identical. If you look at product description of the cheap blueberries, it says blueberries, that's all. But then there's a long list of countries from where it could come. Look at the Tesco Finest, and then there's lots of adjectives. Delicately hand-picked, scrumptious blueberries, expertly selected for their intense aromatic flavor, vibrant color, and crisp texture. That's fine, as long as consumers see that there is a real difference. And I don't think that they do. Moving to Sainsbury's, who also Aldi price match on blueberries. I'm saying, how much do you want to pay for your fresh blueberries from Sainsbury's? Well, you can pay as little as $10, $10 a kg, or you can pay $23 a kg. And what's more, if I take a look at the Aldi price match, what is it? It's imperfectly tasty blueberries, which are selling for, essentially a £1 a punnet. So £1.40 US a punnet, a real deal. When I look at the reviews of these so-called imperfectly tasty blueberries, what does it say? These blueberries were firm and juicy and far superior to the normal ones. A good value and much better than the normal. I buy these on a weekly basis now. There's nothing imperfect about them. And so I think consumers, certainly in my market, are looking at a range of blueberries and say, what's the difference between them? And they don't see a big difference. What's the problem about that? Well, here's a cautionary tale. Don't fall into the UK banana commodity market trap. This is something that I'm just repeating from when 4 years ago, I think it was 4 years ago, I talked at Coffs Harbour in Australia and used this slide. I've just updated it because I think you are falling into the commodity market trap. If you look at bananas in the UK, that what's happened over the last 14 or 15 years is that they've sold much more at a much lower price. So over that period, for blueberries, I think we've got to look at other products, other fresh produce. And I've taken as an example of, good performance, point of difference. They develop their brands globally. They have a particular focus on health in Asia. They've got excellence of supply chain management, and they've got 52-week availability. There are other examples of this. Take apples, for example. Pink Lady, which I'll show you again, which sells at a huge premium. Or Pacific Rose, or Jazz, or Envy. Again, these are products which are specifically bred to have a point of difference that consumers can actually identify. Example, I put Driscoll's down the bottom because when I was involved, particularly in strawberries and raspberries, Driscoll's had Maravilla launched. It was so much better than anything else on the market that, as our general manager said, my children could sell that. It was just brilliant in terms of point of difference. And now in my market, Pink Lady apples, they're apples, sell for 4 times the price of the Aldi price match apples, which are Gala. So Gala is a great variety, but it's not Pink Lady. Why is Pink Lady able to pull that premium from the market? It's identifiably different. It's pink. They've got clear marketing vision. They're in tune with consumers' values that they always link to charitable contributions. They have high-profile promotions. Great one on Valentine's Day. They're on TV, and they've got associated processed products. Pink Lady juice, Pink Lady chips, for example. So, a final look at some fresh berry marketing issues. Almost done, you'll be pleased to know. Look, fresh berries have been standout high performers in many retail markets, and blueberries excel within the overall berry category. In my market, the UK, blueberry sales increased year on year as more shoppers buy them more often. But to repeat, prices remain stubbornly flat whilst production costs increase. And why so? Because there's retailer resistance to raising prices, and they want to hold prices down so that they compete with the hard discounters. There's increasing importance of retail private label. With few strong supplier brands, there's just not enough branding. Savvy shoppers who have been hit by COVID in their incomes are looking for price deals. As I said, traditional supermarkets are under pressure from those hard discounters. In big cities, non-traditional food-to-go specialists will return, and they'll compete strongly with retailers. And look, berry market growth attracts in new production areas and suppliers. You can see it around the world. So there are no supply shortage crises. We always manage to produce just a little more than the market needs. In many markets, shoppers see no compelling fresh berry offer, with some exceptions. There are some super crisp varieties, but few. And special varieties with their own intellectual property are much more quickly copied than in the past. And what's more, I think speed will accelerate with gene editing in terms of new varieties coming to market. So if we have got that special blueberry, we'll only have its advantage for a shorter period of time because it will be easier to copy with gene editing. Yet examples of success is evident in berries and produce, and I use, for example, the Driscoll's Maravilla example. Kiwi fruit, brilliant. Apples with Pink Lady. And in many markets, we need a more distinct good, better, best blueberry offer, with the reasons why shoppers should be willing to pay more for more clearly communicated. The super healthy snacking attribute of all blueberries deserves global promotion. Put it on the pack. And to finish as I did with Coffs Harbour, but it needs repeating. How do you communicate value for money? It really, if I had hair, I'd tear it out. People regularly, and they will post-COVID, pay $7 for 2 coffees. It's a daily purchase. If they go to the office, we go to the office less now, but they'll pay $7 for 2 coffees, and they might spend $30 a week on coffees. Then that's more than most households pay for their fresh fruit for all their family. And when I look at the market research, they'd say, I'd buy more fruit and veg, but it's just a little expensive. For fresh produce, we only promote on price. We need to promote on other benefits that consumers value. So let's get cracking. I wish you well and hope you've followed me all the way through this talk. Bye now, and I look forward to the questions.
Thank you, David. This has been an amazing presentation. Now we're going to go ahead with our Q&A section. David, welcome to the main stage of IBO Summit 2021.
Here.
How are you, David?
Oh, good.
Good afternoon over there in the UK. All right, so we're going to kick off our round of Q&A. Our first question is, what's the most outstanding opportunity to increase sales of blueberries right now?
Right now, I mean, I consider right now is right in the middle of COVID-19 now. And actually, I mentioned it briefly in my talk, but I'd say
Second question for you, David. One of the big issues is finding labor. We've heard about this during the IBO Summit. How is it that e-commerce quick delivery services seem to have business model based on an unlimited supply of personal shopper and delivery boy gig workers? Are they scalable?
Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on the country. Although, intriguingly in Europe, as I mentioned, the quick delivery, dark convenience store retailing is just growing, and it's growing like weeds. It's just sprouting up. And it, as you say, it's based on gig workers. I guess that model works. It gets slightly rocky if those gig workers become unionized. And so there is a question mark over it. What will they do? They'll move increasingly, as we do in production, to levels of automation, but that's more longer term. So automatic picking within the mini warehouse. And then eventually, as we're already seeing in some countries, actually autonomous vehicles delivering. That will be not probably in my professional lifetime, but that's going to take 3 or 5 years before we see that more widely. But good question.
Okay, thank you for that answer, David. We're going to go with our next question. David, I often see blueberries on the packaging, yet there is 0% blueberries in the ingredients list. Is this legal, or do we need to claim terrier, and you can only add blueberries to your packaging if it contains a certain percentage?
Yeah. I think increasingly, I think legislation regulations will be on our side because if there is one clear trend from consumers, it is transparency and traceability, particularly as it relates to ingredients. And if we make a claim about ingredients and they're essentially that they're so small as to be almost invisible, then people don't like that, they don't want that, and they will penalize those who are using that sort of language in their ingredient listing. No, that is not right, it shouldn't be right, and it should be penalized. And I think the legislation is on our side in that regard.
Oh, okay, good to hear that. Now to our next question. Peter, you talk about the commodity trap for fruit, and how it forces down prices. How can we avoid this for blueberries? How can we avoid that commodity trap for blueberries?
Right. I think it's a big issue. The quick question is, produce slightly less than the market requires. However, we all know that it's very difficult to coordinate, particularly global production and marketing of blueberries. And we could all, from our various countries, go into a big room and then promise each other that we will hold production increases to, say, 2 or 3%. And then the minute we left that room, a proportion of those people who promises would immediately break their promises, up production by 10 or 15% to take advantage of what they would see was the short supply. So that essentially it is, don't oversupply relative demand. But in the longer term, it's back to what I was saying. I think we need to see better category management in blueberries. I want to see a good, better, best offer. And that means we want varieties with very distinctive and consumer relevant differences. And these are differences as seen by consumers, not by agronomists. Often as not, we think we've got the quintessential new blueberry, but from a consumer point of view, they can't see that, they can't taste that, and they certainly can't see it on the shelf. And they particularly, of course, can't see it on the shelf when it's an electronic shelf, which is, a bit of an issue too, as we see this move towards more online grocery retailing. So we want intellectual property protected varieties which have genuine points of difference. And then I think which are focused at specific segments of consumers. There are people who will pay more for more. We want to see more of that, I would suggest, in the wider market.
Thank you for that. No, totally agree how important it is to boost that awareness, to increase consumption of blueberries, and how important it is for the consumer, the shopper experience. You displayed in the presentation these stores in Taiwan and China that it's a whole different experience, a super fun experience to buy fresh fruit over there.
Yes.
Going to our next question, David, as the market evolves constantly, is the target more focused on the younger generations, or do we hope to reach all ages within digital market?
Let's see. How do I answer that? I think you particularly got to focus on younger people. I think you've got a product which appeals to younger people. And it's, as I said, if it's presented appropriately. Back to my little, I'd mentioned the PepsiCo product, which is focused at gamers. I would be banging on their door, gamers, and again saying, you've got something essentially snackable here. It's cool to be healthy. It's cool to understand the health benefits and the brain benefits of blueberries. That's, it's a terrific segment of the market to focus on. In general, we don't do that at all. What we do, remember, we just put a punnet, or retailers put punnets on shelves, and essentially we ask the consumers, the shoppers, to work it out for yourself. Work out how healthy they are. Work out how you might use them. Work out how you can use them on different occasions. And I don't think we've started yet, and we just have to be just much more precise in terms of our marketing focus. And that means we have to work closely with retailers, because they probably won't do it themselves, because they will see that's an overuse of their resource. So, and it probably comes best too with better branding. So if you've got a brand, you have to support that brand in the retail store, and then it gives you an opportunity to work closer with those retailers. Now, let's not just slap it on the shelves and say, work out the benefits for yourself. That is hopeless.
Oh, great. Thanks, Peter. We're going to our next question. I don't know if this is going to be the last question due to the time. But Peter, what are the advantages and disadvantages of marketing by variety of blueberries? What are good and bad examples from other fruits?
Often as not, it'd be interesting to look at the research to see whether, in fact, shoppers even get as far as working out what the varieties are. Take strawberries, for example, because it's in the overall berry section, I would suggest older consumers probably have some knowledge about berry varieties, but most people are looking for just good berries. And so by variety, I mean, often as not, that's confusing. And, but it depends. If it's your variety, if you own it, if it has specific benefits, if it has some unique characteristics, then you can build your brand name around that variety. And yes, that's good. But in general, don't overcomplicate. And if that's my last question, let me just quickly, in terms of key threats, I think you really have to look at this sort of environmental impact of your product. It really worried me in the UK when I saw blueberries scoring in the mid-range when it came to environmental impact. And I thought, wow, we need to take a much better look at that and say, we know you're going to score well on nutritional value, on you'll get the green light for health, but will you get the green light for the environment? I think we've got to do more work on that, because that will become increasingly important from a purchaser's point of view. Remember, in Europe, for example, 25% of those consumers are particularly enviro-sensitive, and they're looking for products that they can purchase that will help the world become healthy, which will help the planet become more healthy. And we want blueberries to be up there in that green range, not as I'm worried about it because it's imported. Because remember, if there's one thing that's come with COVID-19 too, it's been an increase in interest in local product. I think that gives a particular challenge to those products which are imported from long distances, because they can be scarred if they're seen as being anti-environmental.
Thank you, Peter, for that last comment. And thank you very much for taking the time on being here and participating of IBO Summit 2021. It's been an honor having you as part of the program. Now we have to move ahead with the program. But thank you again in the name of the IBO and the Peruvian blueberry industry, for being with us.
Thank you, and cheerio. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Bye, David. Great. So now, before we jump into our last segment of the IBO Summit, where we are going to virtually visit two unique blueberry fields, Agrovision and Atos, I just want to remember everybody to go and visit our commercial area, where you're going to find all the different sponsoring companies that are making the IBO Summit a reality. We have different categories in the titanium and diamond category. Thank you very much, Planasa, Folkric, Hortifruit, Camposol, and Naturite for sponsoring the IBO Summit. In our gold category, thank you very much to Agricola.